Reminders that we are losing the race against climate change are hard to avoid. As California burns in the state's largest wildfire, hundreds of homes perish. In the Chinese province of Henan, where a year's worth of rain fell in just 3 days, the eerie sight of floating cities, the image of a human-driven problem which isn't going away. And more than a week after the catastrophic floods in Germany and Belgium that killed over 200 people, once again heavy rainfall taking everything with it. The clock is ticking, with under 100 days to go until the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow. Today, the meeting before the meeting. World leaders from 50 countries are in London for this event, hosted by the UK government, releasing this video with urgent sounding music. On the guest list today are the big emitters, places like America and China. Leaders there will meet with countries like Jamaica and Costa Rica, who are more vulnerable to climate change. Top of the agenda will be to limit global warming to that temperature of 1.5 degrees Celsius, to phase out our love affair with coal, and crucially, to mobilise the finances to pay for all of this.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
The groundwork for this, the Paris Agreement in 2015, the legally binding international treaty to shift our global economy off fossil fuels to a cleaner and greener future. But at G20 in Naples earlier this week, ministers failed to reach agreement on phasing out coal because of opposition from China, India, Saudi Arabia and Russia.
The Saudis, the Russians, others are not willing to go to agree on a phase out of coal as one of the outcomes from the COP. So we're still fighting that battle. But what we're seeing, I think, in Naples is a small leap for man, not the giant leap for mankind that we really need to see.
And environmentalists say the race against climate change relies heavily on the world's richest countries stepping up.
I think there's all to play for at this stage. The science is really clear that we've got until 2030 to really sort our act out and get the measures in place to really cut emissions out of our economy, out of our day-to-day activities.
The road to COP26 is crucial. At the rate things are running, scientists say saving the world is going to go right to the wire.
Minnie Stevenson reporting there. Well, one of those at the London meeting is Gabon's Environment Minister, Professor Lee White. A conservationist born in Manchester, he was hired 2 years ago to run the country's Environment Ministry and is now involved in the African group of negotiators on climate change. I spoke to him earlier and I asked him if the aspiration set out in the Paris Agreement to keep warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius was still within reach.
It's possible, but it's going to be really tough. And we have to all come together in Glasgow, and the world has to commit to that objective and to all of the concrete actions on the ground and to all the financing that we need to get it done, because there's no time to lose anymore. We really have to start working now.
You talk about all acting together, but when you look at the fact that G20 countries haven't been able to agree on phasing out coal power, that doesn't bode well, does it?
The developing world and the developed world are poles apart, and the real challenge is to bring everybody together, to get the countries that have polluted to make some commitments to trying to put things right, and to bring the developing world who are starting to increase their emissions to find new development pathways that will allow us to develop without polluting.
Would you have a tough message for one of your, I think your biggest trading partner, China, which has yet to make more radical commitments to reducing emissions? Would you say to them they've got to bring that forward, they've got to act more?
I think China knows that we're all in this global challenge together. When you look at the situation with the glaciers melting in the Himalayas, the Chinese and the Indian people are going to suffer terribly because of climate change. And so it's a matter of every country evaluating the risks and then deciding what can be done and at what speed every country on earth needs to make more commitments and to go faster. And so definitely Africa, as the continent that has polluted the least but is going to be the worst affected by climate change, then our message is to all countries that are polluting that everybody has to bring the pollutions down.
Do you feel that you're being listened to in this conversation, or are you being dictated to by the West?
I don't think we're listened to enough. Gabon is a fairly unique country. We're 88% forest. We have almost no deforestation. We absorb a quarter of the UK's carbon emissions every year by managing our forests. But when we go into the negotiations, we often get the feeling that people are ignoring that effort. Africa is a quarter of the countries in these climate negotiations, but our voice is not in proportion. And to get to the point where we have strong agreements at COP26, we have to bring countries together and voices have to be heard.
Boris Johnson has been accused of being missing in action in preparation for COP26. Do you get the sense that he and that the UK government really grasp the urgency of this?
I definitely get the sense from UK government that there's urgency. We've seen Alok Sharma doing the rounds. He's been to Gabon. He's speaking to all of the different parties. I think if it stays at the level of ministers, then we're going to struggle to get an agreement. We have to see heads of state pitching in and putting their weight behind these negotiations. And UK, as the COP presidency, I think Alok is going to need the support of all of his colleagues and of the Prime Minister if we're going to push through the agreements that we need.